So welcome everyone to this lightning talks today. We'll have people in person, of course, also people attending online, and some practical things. Please don't be standing around in the corridor, because that's kind of a safety hazard. And also we will be asking questions only in the Eventry app. And that goes for both people here and online. And with that, I welcome everyone to the talk. And first up, we have Sofia Balderson, and she's the co-founder of HIVE. So I'd like to welcome her to the stage, please.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming to the Lightning Talks. My name is Sofia Balderson, I'm the co-founder of HIVE, and today I'm going to talk to you about how I grew my side project to a funded organization, which is HIVE. Before I start, I would just like to say that this is my personal experience, and I'm not saying that you should do everything I did, so please assess my advice critically. So it all started with me identifying a problem. I realized I was spending too much time sending opportunities to my friends, whether there was a job available or a funding opportunity. And I was like, right, I had enough of this. I'm going to just start a newsletter and compile it and send it to everyone for free. And people really liked it. Hundreds of people signed up in the first few days. So this is me at my kitchen table. And when the newsletter was a success, I was like, right, I think there is something about this. Like, I think we need an organization where we can just combine all the animal advocates online, because there isn't such an organization where we can discuss and share opportunities and support each other. And this is how this idea came up. This is how I came up with this idea. But the problem was I didn't get the seed funding for it. It was very disappointing. I didn't get into the charity entrepreneurship program or another incubation program. So I decided to just start it small on the side and get another job in the meantime. So this is a picture of my co-founders. Everything changed when I met them. So in the middle, this is Constance, this is Cam. And I realized that the first lesson of success for a project, apart from identifying a good problem to solve, is to get aligned people on board, because together you're less likely to give up, you're more likely to come up with good ideas. And together we started trying ideas fast. We designed quick experiments. We stopped things when they didn't work, and set an evaluation date for all projects, which was very useful. And eventually we came up with our core program, the Slack space. You can see this impressive graph. And this is where we realized that we had a lead indicator of success, which is some engagement, but there wasn't any concrete impact happening. But this told us that that program was potentially a success. And then we started getting really great testimonials from people. So here's Wasim, who found 7 employees on HIVE, which is crazy. Here is Moritz, who found a volunteer for Animal Advocacy Africa, and other leaders in the movement just kept telling us how useful the platform that we built was. These are some of the early lessons that I've learned that I'd like to share with you. So the first lesson, you don't need to start an organization to make an impact and to trial an idea. Don't make a website, just make a Google Doc, ask on HIVE about your idea, just start doing something. The second lesson is rejections doesn't mean that your project necessarily is a bad idea. So I got rejected so many times, and very few people believed in HIVE, and yet now it's a successful project. So don't still be critical of your idea and evaluate rejections, but don't be put off. Also, early team make or break the organization. Be careful who you bring on board. And it's very, very hard to get seed funding, so try and bootstrap and save money at the beginning where you can. Do things that don't scale. You may want to help millions of animals immediately, but just start with one advocate or one animal. Start small and see how you can do it, and then scale later. then you will make mistakes. It's not an if, you will make mistakes, so just admit it, learn from them, move on fast. Also focus. The biggest mistake I see small organizations making is that they trying to do too many things. So if you're doing 10 things, just do 10 times less and prove that you can deliver high quality product. And also collect impact however you can. When I started HIVE, I had no idea how I could measure the impact, but we just started. And when we saw the indicators, this gave us an idea of how to measure the impact. So don't worry about that, just keep testing. So this is how to get funding. I'm sure that some of you are like, right, okay, how do we get funding? So my first advice, and this is just what's applicable to me, is if your project can't be supported by major funders, if you haven't built trust yet, start with high net worth individuals and people who are earning to give. So this is a picture of me with my co-founder, Constance, who's actually sitting right here. And she was a community member. And she liked the Slack so much and just saw the value firsthand that she offered us the money without me even asking her. So this is the second lesson. Show your work. Just make sure that you're being public about it. Post on LinkedIn, post on HIVE, create a newsletter, go to conferences, tell people about it. Because if you're not talking about it, no one knows and no one can fund you. Tell stories. Try and come up with the stories of your beneficiaries and learn storytelling, because it's an incredibly powerful tool in fundraising. Also remember that, and this is the biggest lesson of all for funding, build relationships before you need the money. Don't make your first conversation with funders about money. Make it about learning about them as a person. And remember that, especially early on, rejections are inevitable, and just learn from them. Just treat them as learning points, and don't stop working your project just because you're getting rejected. And also shoot your shots. This is actually our team motto. Just always go for it. Don't reject yourself. It's okay if you get rejected. Just keep going. Okay, you might be wondering, right, but after Constance, what happened to us, and like, how do we get more money? And this is my advice about institutional funding. So this is a slide with some of the bigger funders who gave us money. And this may look impressive, but I just want to remind you that this took 2 years in the making, and it was so super hard. So don't look at established organizations and think, wow, they got it so easy. They didn't. I can tell you, it was damn hard. So it just takes time. And my advice for institutional funding is to treat them as people. Just build relationships with them. Okay. So these are just a quick sequence of pictures for me to tell you what it's like to build a charity. So the first one is that building a charity is a roller coaster. It's not a smooth ride. Maybe working at a job is kind of easy-ish, but a charity is an emotional and professional roller coaster. So that's my experience. So some of my advice that it's an emotional and personal growth journey, so treat it accordingly. Make sure that you have support to get through the low points. Make sure that you have a good relationship with your co-founder. Make sure that if you have a therapist, you're using their services, and keeping yourself healthy. Also, this job wasn't supposed to be done on your own. Don't run a project on your own. Some people have done it, but I don't recommend it. And there's evidence that co-founder teams of 2 and more are more successful than 1. And also learn to cope with uncertainty. This has been a really hard lesson for me. When you run a charity, you become an expert in your charity, and no one can tell you what to do. So just remember that it's okay that you don't know what to do, and just make the best decision you can and keep moving. Actively seek help and learn. Don't reinvent the wheel. I think so many people just keep problems to themselves, but just reach out to me, reach out to my team, reach out to each other, and ask each other, how do you do a certain thing? Because this could save you so much heartache and so much time. And also enjoy the ride. This early time passes very quickly, so I know it's hard, but it's a lot of fun, and you'll look back to it with fond memories, I hope. This is another set of pictures. I think that I usually compare building a charity to a uphill struggle. I always say that. And that's how it feels, because when you're at a job, your manager creates steps for you to learn from. But when you're running a charity, you're making this path for yourself. So don't be afraid to have a break if the learning curve becomes too steep. Sometimes I call Constance and I'm like, right, I think that's too much for me right now. I think we need to reduce the complexity. And I just stop some projects. So that's okay if you're overwhelmed, which means that you may be doing too much. And also spend at least 10% of your time learning, because this job, like, you can't know everything, but you have to be constantly upgrading your knowledge. Read books about management, strategy, culture, talk to other founders, and never stop learning. It's incredibly important, and it makes that learning curve just a little bit easier. Okay, so that's all my advice, but I have prepared a collection of some of my own resources that you can check out. These are also projects like Charity Entrepreneurship and Kickstart for Good that could help make that learning curve a little bit easier. And also, just a reminder, feel free to reach out either to me or to any of my team, because that's actually our job to help, especially early stage projects, but actually any charities in the movement to make your job easier. So please have a really low bar for reaching out. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. And now we will be moving on to the next one, and that is Joana Oliveira. And I was a little bit brief in the introduction before we had a little time, but then basically she is campaign manager, Portuguese Vegetarian Association, Abrir de Asa's project. And I think we'll just start. Thank you.
So hi everyone, my name is Joana Machado. I'm the responsible for corporate campaigns and corporate outreach, and now we founded a new NGO in Portugal called Frente Animal. So I just wanted to say that our project is no longer part of the Portuguese Vegetarian Association, because we just founded this new NGO. So that said, we were kind of new on this issue about animal welfare, because in Portugal, and I imagine there's the same in many countries, we have like two very opposite groups that don't really communicate with each other. On one hand, we have the retailers, the companies, and the politicians. They don't want to hear about animal welfare. They don't want to do much more than what they are doing. And on the other side, we have the animal rights activists. They don't believe in animal welfare because they want animal liberation now. So 2 years ago, we came up with this kind of new team that was working on animal welfare. And we were not that well received. We needed to be friends with both groups, and we needed to collaborate with both groups and to see kind of as ally. So what did we do so that we could be accepted? So we tried to make ourselves most visible as we could. We were inviting other NGOs to participate with us in events. We were on their events. We were always sending emails and inviting, and social media, with social media as well, always sending messages. It also helps that the other groups already know us, so they trusted us because we have been doing this as volunteers for a long time. They just didn't trust the animal welfare issue. So we tried, and you're probably thinking, is that enough? It wasn't. So we thought that maybe we need to try another approach, because these were steps that we needed to do, but also they were not as fast as we wanted to be for the animals. So we try a different approach. I don't know how to put play on this. Maybe here? Oh, sorry. Maybe it's not working. But the approach that we tried was to put, thank you, I'm sorry. We put an investigation about poultry farms on television. We got it on national television in prime time. And this is not the normal pictures that we see on television on prime time, so it was very good for us. Why is this kind of different? Because normally the investigations are launched to target a specific company, and when we started to do the investigation, that was also our goal, was to target a specific company. But we thought, are we strong enough as a movement in Portugal to target a specific company, a big company? And we thought maybe we now should use these images to target the whole sector. So on this report, on this new report, we talked about broilers and the breeds and the cages for egg-laying hens, and we talk about male chick culling. So this way we got to have public awareness. Now public knows what is happening inside those farms, and they know who we are and what we want to do. And at the same time, we got to get the attention of both groups. We have the companies that now they know our resources and what we aim to do, and they better talk to us. And on the other hand, we have now the more skeptical activists collaborating with us, because we also got to show to everyone that we all want the same thing. We want to expose animal cruelty, and we want to stop animal abuse. So we got a lot of attention after this. We have there, I say 1,000 signatures, but it was more than 2,000 signatures in 3 days after the report, because we have a petition to end the male chick culling in Portugal as well. It was a strategy that we also thought it could get some awareness to and some supporters to our side. So we tried this approach. We are not sure if it was the right approach. We are not sure if we lost the novelty effect when we want to target a specific company. Will TV will still be interested in talking about this, since it was talked this year already? We are still trying to understand, but also we felt like it was necessary to get people on board and to establish our own our own project in the Portuguese reality. So that was it. That's a little bit of our experience. I think questions are at the end. Okay, thank you so much.
So now it's better for the people speaking to stand here or more in the middle for the cameras. Just some practical information. And yeah, sorry. And now I welcome Sebastian Joy to the stage, founding president of ProVeg International. Welcome.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Oh, that's well. Who of you is here to maximize their positive impact for the animals? Please raise your hand. Okay, I would say that's more than half. That's good. You're at the right conference. If we look in our movement, we actually recognize that, sorry. That seems to be the wrong slide. So if we look at our movement, we actually recognize that a lot of the most impactful people actually are the ones who have founded new initiatives or new nonprofits. As we've also just heard from Sofia and by Joana, who started new initiative. That's one way to really create a massive amount of impact. And also at ProVeg, over the years, we have always on the side started new initiatives, either event series, I guess you've heard of the AVA Summit, or more behind the scenes initiatives like the Dietary Guidelines Initiative. But at some point, we actually recognized what we actually need as a movement is more like an incubation program that helps all these people who want to start new initiatives so that it's not as hard as Sofia described it to really get projects off the ground. And this is why we created Kickstarting for Good. And we have a little video that describes it well. ProVeg International's mission is to reduce the global consumption of animal products by 50% by 2040.
A compassionate food system is our goal, but we cannot do it alone.
This is why ProVeg launched Kickstarting for Good.
With our new program, we help to launch new nonprofits, impact initiatives working to this mission and transform the global food system.
We're looking for those hidden gems, those organizations that are working on very important issues that are also highly neglected and aren't being worked on by many other advocates. Projects and ideas that are highly tractable and tangible and that we know can achieve success.
We will accompany you on your journey, whether you are just starting with your idea or looking to accelerate your initiative.
You will take part in an expert-led program with tailor-made workshops, mentoring, networking, and fundraising.
Honestly, the journey from kind of like 7-8 weeks ago to now is absolutely amazing, and that's essentially been with the support of the mentors along the way. They've got a huge amount of passion for the subject, and they've helped us enormously.
Nailing down the details of how are we going to measure our impact? Why do we implement certain interventions more than others? And why do we choose to focus on these?
So my experience with the Kickstarting for Good has been phenomenal. It's given me the motivation to launch my non-profit and sort of start to build the thinking and the strategy and the planning behind it.
You'll also get to team up with dozens of like-minded co-founders, and at the end of the program, you'll get to pitch your ideas to mission-aligned major funders and foundations.
Just being around so many like-minded people who are all creating really high-impact organizations, it's just so great to be able to collaborate with everyone and to be inspired.
Excellent co-founders, people that I would never have met otherwise, who are committed.
Meeting diverse set of people, being exposed to a lot of ideas and perspectives.
If you're thinking of starting a non-profit, I can't think of a better way or better start for your non-profit journey.
Join our mission to transform the global food system.
Apply now. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so we launched Kickstarting for Good with a pilot project last year. So we put it all together at very short notice, but we were really surprised by the success in terms of getting over 300 applications. And then we had our first incubation round where we incubated a few initiatives. The program looks now as following. So we have a tailored 10-week program. So for this year, it's going to run from September. So we literally just started until the mid of November. We will have most of the program is remote. So, people should spend at least 20 hours a week on the program. We also bring people to Berlin twice in the beginning and at the very end of the project. We have around $5,000 or up to in terms of reimbursing people for their travel grants and all of that. We connect them with potential co-founders. We have a broad networks of mentors and supporters, and we end the whole program with a pitch day. We cover a lot of topics during the, all these weeks and months. Many of them, like what Sofia has already mentioned, what's really important to start a new nonprofit, from impact measurement to strategy development to public speaking and pitching. So that is all included in the program. We are now in the middle of the second cohort, so overall we had over 750 applications. People are also often coming with their own ideas, so we had over 370 applications submitted or ideas submitted. This is the current cohort that just came together to Berlin last week. So we have selected 25 very promising charity entrepreneurs. And that's what I would actually like to introduce to you the ones that actually also came here to the CARE conference, because it might be very valuable to already connect with some of those. So we have 6 idea areas, as we call them, that we are working on for this cohort. And the first one that we had is farming transition. So Carrie is going to lead that project. She's actually also going to give a pitch talk. So please connect with her. She's waving her hands here. So anybody who's interested in farming transition, please speak to her. We have a number of people working on meta fundraising. So we have Nuno, who actually, interestingly, used to work at the Vegetarian Society of Portugal, who's actually now becoming ProVeg Portugal, but he is now working on meta fundraising, trying to get, how to frame the topic more suitable for human rights. We have Deep and Emily working on corporate giving and other initiatives to bring more money into the movement. And Andrew, whose movie you saw yesterday, is also working towards exploring the options of legacy giving. Then we have also the topic AI, obviously a very big topic these days. We have 2 people who are here at the conference. One is Frankie, who is generally looking into AI community building, and also Ash, who is more looking into training institute. I mean, that's a very broad frame, something along those lines. So please reach out to them if you're interested in that initiative. People working on social media, usually focused on specific countries. We have AIM working in, focusing on Thailand, Chef Dave on Malaysia, and Monica, who is starting a vegan debate society in China. I think she will also give a lightning talk at this conference. Then we have faith-based advocacy, where for this year we are focusing on Islam, like how can we get the 2 billion Muslims in the world to be, carrying more of Islam. And there we have Sarah, who's going to lead those efforts. And last but not least, we also have corporate engagement activities, where we have 2 very promising candidates. So we have Csaba there, who has built an impressive vegan business circle in Hungary. So we're very impressed what he has built up there, and now looking into how can we internationalize that project. And we have Ilunamian from Nigeria, which is the, becoming the 4th most populated country in the world, Nigeria, and working on a project called My Vegan Africa. So those are all the people you can connect with here at the conference. Reach out to them, connect with them. And if you have your own initiative that you want to start or thinking of bringing into fruition, please reach out to us. The next round of incubation is already, the call for proposal is starting early next year, but feel free to reach out to us anytime. Feel free to scan the QR code. And besides myself, I'm here from the Kickstarting for Good team, but Prakrit, is he here? Yeah, he is here. So obviously you can also, yes, getting lots of applause, I know, because he is doing most of the heavy lifting, most of the people know at Kickstarting for Good. So obviously also reach out to him. And that's it from my end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now we have actually 2 people presenting together, both from Animetrics, co-founder Gülbike Mirsalo and co-founder Fatma Sweda. Welcome them to the stage. Thank you.
Okay. Do we go with this one? Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. So we are very happy to introduce you to Animetrics if you haven't heard about us. Especially today, because this conference is especially special for us, because last year this time we attended the same conference, CARE, and Animetrics was not born that time, so we were just like pitching our ideas. We were thinking like, what can we do best and where can be the most effective? We were getting inspired by many advocates. And today, like in a year, it has been like an amazing journey for us We have learned a lot. It was very challenging as well, but it was really beautiful. So we are really happy to share with you our journey today. So basically, we are a research and capacity building organization. We are 1 year old, and in a nutshell, our aim is to advance the movement with economics and econometrics using research methods in experiments, policy evaluation, and cause and effect relationships. So my name is Gülbike Mirzaoğlu. If you cannot pronounce, it's okay. So, my friend, collaborator, Fatma and Gülbike. So I did my PhD in economics around 2 years ago. I finished, and Sweda is currently doing her PhD in economics as well. She will finish soon. And I'm also a lecturer, and I'm giving talks with Middle East Vegan Society on veganism, animal rights, animal welfare, environmental effect of animal agriculture in places like Africa and Middle East. I've given talks, and Sweda is also passionate about creative advocacy. So our starting point was seeing our background and also being in the movement with vegan activists before. We identified some gaps, and we saw some points that we could be effective. First, coming from academic background, we saw how much limited resources we have compared to the injustice we are facing. And of course, we need to know how it can be the most effective, where we need to prioritize in terms of regions, strategies, and focus. And we see some amazing, but very few, but amazing research organizations. They are doing an amazing job, but we need more research, of course. And we also saw that we need more strategies using economics and econometric methodologies. There are very few researchers who have PhD in economics in the movement, so we saw we could really add value here. And second, we are both from Middle East, and we see that the research is mostly focused on global northern countries, whereas global south is neglected more relatively, and we have limited funding, and we are expecting a rise in animal agriculture in the near future. And being involved with different social justice movements before, and still, we see our struggles are similar. We have similar lessons. We need to learn from each other. So we need more comprehensive strategies, and we need to increase our impact, we need to work together. And we need to have many things to learn from each other. So seeing this, what do we do to fill these gaps? We do two things, basically. First, we do capacity building projects, where we help other organizations with their data analysis, in their training, designing surveys, impact evaluation in a causal sense, I would say, and proposal development, and so on. And we also do research using economics and econometric tools. So we do our own research, but also we collaborate with other organizations. How do we do that? We prioritize global southern countries, global southern regions. We provide our services free of charge. And we also put intersectionality at the core of our work. So in a nutshell, it's not our theory of change, but in a very basic sense, these lead to stronger animal advocacy by empowering the advocates with evidence-based strategies. It increases public awareness, and also it leads to policy transformation. That's our aim, which will lead us to our vision of a future characterized by compassion, equity, and justice for all beings.
So in our beautiful roller coaster journey, what have we done so far? In 1 year, we have collaborated with 13 organizations, PETA Kids, Middle East Vegan Society, Bryant Research, just to name a few. I'm not going to name all of them. These include the collab works that we have been doing, and they also include the capacity building services that we provide. So now I'm gonna tell you about one little original study. So apart from the collab work, we also have been doing some original Animetrics research. So this is just one idea to, to show you what kind of work we do, to also show you how evidence-based research could be effective, and how could it be important in leading to policy transformations. So the focus of this study is these naming bans that we've been facing in a lot of the countries. So what they do is they basically ban the use of cheese or meat from plant-based alternative labels. So we've been talking to, the claims behind these bans, by the way, is that they cause consumer confusion. So they think that, the claim is that consumers, when they see cheese on a plant-based food, they think it's animal-based cheese and this should not be happening, blah, blah, blah. So that's the idea. But actually there's no evidence of such consumer confusion happening so far. So what we did is we talked to activists in Turkey and we basically asked them like what could be done in the sense that how these restrictions could be challenged. And they said that, first of all, we need to disprove these claims, or if these claims are true, we need to find ways to reduce the confusion. Like if it's happening, then what can we do? So that's why we focused on two questions. So we ask, does the use of the term cheese cause confusion? And we also have, we're also asking whether or not, suppose it's causing confusion, if we add the vegan label, then what happens? Another question that we have is that we want to know what happens when we remove the term cheese. Because I've been vegan for quite some time, but when I see a product called vegan block, I don't know what that is. I don't know how to use that in my kitchen. And vegan block is an actual product name that is used in Turkey. Unfortunately. We're focusing on Turkey. And we are recruiting 2,500 Turkish residents who are consumers, and we'll be doing an online experiment. So we are utilizing tools that are used in experimental economics quite often to find out cause and effect relationships. So different consumers will be seeing different products, and then we'll be asking them about, some true and false questions about functionality of the product they see, and then we'll compare the results basically. So what we are hoping, and we're quite confident about it, but let's see. We hope that our findings will guide better labeling practices. It will be informative for activists, first of all. This was their demand in the first place. But it will also be informative to the producers of the plant-based products, because it will give us information about the labeling, informative labeling, and so on. And it will also be representative of markets similar to Turkey, such as the countries in the Middle East and North Africa. So what's next? So we have been juggling quite a lot of projects so far, against some advice from Sofia. We'll continue these projects while also taking breaths every once in a while. And then, fundraising has also been it's been a quite big challenge for us as well. And our fundraising efforts have been going strong. They will continue going strong, hopefully. And so if you have any questions, we're also looking for volunteers. So just to announce this. If you have any questions, if you want to talk about any ideas, I don't know, just if you want to ask anything, tell us about anything, feel free to reach out and find us around the conference as well. Thank you so much.
So thank you again to our speakers. And now we have the last one coming up. It is Lukas Jasiunas, and he is the co-founder and head of research of Healthier Hens. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much, and for the great talks on motivation and resilience before. Now I understand why I've been moved to the very end. But all stories have to be told, so happy to be here and share our experiences. I'll try to squeeze in quite a lot in the 10 minutes that I have about the journey and the shutdown of Healthier Hens. if you haven't heard about Healthier Hens, this might be one of the last opportunities to do so. So enjoy. But the backstory behind it is we're one of the charity entrepreneurships incubated charities. They've done a lot of research and identified the issue of keel bone fractures as one that's causing a lot of pain and suffering to egg-laying hens. And essentially, that in combination with the fact that feed, as most of the intensified farming system mechanisms are geared towards productivity, might cause some welfare issues, right? So let's say that's the hypothesis. Poor feed leads to even worse bone conditions and injuries. So in 2021, we've teamed up, myself, Kiki, and Isaac, to form the core team, and soon have been joined by Faisal as the country manager in Kenya, where we decided to pilot and look into this issue a bit more. But zooming out, so keel bone fractures, I just wanted to really point out what's the keel. This probably doesn't work. Anyway, the keel is the largest bone of the hen. It's situated right in the middle. It serves kind of like a dual purpose in a sense, because it's also structural, but also keeps the calcium, the mineral deposits for forming bones, essentially, and the eggs. So it's a kind of complicated piece of equipment, let's say. And it's quite well documented that keel bone fractures, so injuries to this bone, are very prevalent in the global north. So we're thinking, you know, industrial systems in Europe, in North America. We know it's a widespread issue. Sometimes even up to 97% of the hens in a given barn have at least one injury. Whereas, come in. Well, okay, you're lost. Anyway, so continuing, genetics, housing, feed, management systems, they all contribute to this issue, making it a very complex one to solve, to diagnose, and of course to track down towards more effective interventions. Added to that, of course, we have the lack of data from the global south. So we don't really know if the hens that are kept there fare the same way. Do they have more issues, less, when it comes to their keel bone health? So we kind of wanted to look into that. We took a two-pronged approach in the beginning, against the advice of Sofia, to look into the global north, you know, given that data we do have, the expertise that we do have, what can be done there, and then look into the global south and see, mainly testing hypotheses, mainly testing assumptions, is the issue even there, given that we expect it should be. So our initial work was kind of gathering data, understanding what opportunities are there, both mainly, I'd say, in Kenya, our pilot country operations. And through that, I just want to highlight that collaboration throughout these slides and our work was key. Really enabled some of the work. So in the global north, we collaborated with some researchers from the University of Bern, Switzerland. They're kind of the leading experts in the keel bone issue. Whereas some of the activities, such as the vet training or the farmer training, we teamed up with the Africa Network for Animal Welfare down in Kenya, who do some great work. But in terms of the assumptions tested or seen, first of all, we wanted to see, okay, is feed quality an issue? It turns out, yes, it is. Do farmers know about this issue, or in general, animal welfare concepts? No, they don't. Do vets know about it, and do they have the skills to kind of assess these issues and kind of treat them? No, they don't. Do other welfare issues exist on those farms besides keel bone fractures? Yes, they do. So as you might imagine, the good news is we confirmed some of these assumptions. Bad news is that raised more questions that provided answers. These QR codes, they lead to some reports where you can, read more about it. But essentially, we came up with more questions than answers, which kind of complicated our pathway towards impact. Given the fact that we don't have a clear idea how to solve this or address this, and some funding constraints along the way, we decided to downscale initially, later on to pivot a bit and focus on smaller, kind of clearly defined mini projects that could help us either build capacity or check, again, some key assumptions. We had one key assumption left on the table, which was, do these hens in the global south, given all these multifactorial issues, have these keel bone fractures? Then we also looked at, can vets, professionals in the sector, be quickly trained up to assess these welfare issues on the farms? Would certification, so kind of looking in parallel to what's happening in the global north, help companies connect with more sustainable and higher welfare farmers, and then finally looking at some of those other issues that we found on the farm, perhaps looking into whether they could be a more effective intervention. Here too, collaboration was key. University of Nairobi helped us with performing the trainings for the vet professionals. The Welfare Footprint Project is a very cool organization, helped us to assess the potential impact that these different interventions could have and kind of scope, which issue causes, let's say, the most pain and suffering in the hens. So really helping us to choose and select those different topics. So, long story short, yes, these hens do in fact experience keel bone fractures as well in Kenya too. Although we were a bit surprised, the issue was not as prevalent as in the global north, or seemingly so. Long story, we can talk about it later why we think that could be the case, but anyway, vet training was tricky mainly because there was no incentive for the professionals to carry on training, right? There's no incentive to actually go out to the farm and perform these assessments. So there's kind of like a missing link. Okay, they have the skill, but how do they continue building it? How do they actually improve the lives of the hens? Certification was not likely to take off in this case because we found that there's too big of a gap between the market supply and demand, and yeah, we're probably not quite there yet. And finally, some of the promising things that we looked into, which for your kind of context would be enough access to water, enough access to feed, enough space. These are basic things that typically are assured to some degree in Europe, for example, but in Kenya, in some cases, they're not. So we thought perhaps it's a low-hanging fruit, but it turns out that it would be more expensive to pursue these than, for example, to continue corporate cage-free campaigns in selected regions. So we did not pursue them. In the end, funding limitations did kind of slow us down, and that's, I think, one of the regrets that we had. Perhaps we could have moved a bit faster and figured these things out faster if we had that capacity. Staff engagement at some point became tricky, right? Because we had to volunteer, we had to do part-time stuff, and then finally motivation started to drip as well, especially in the staff who are perhaps not, let's say, effective altruism aligned or something like that. So they're not used to, let's say, an entrepreneurial, high-risk, high uncertainty type of situation. So that's something to really consider. But our main reason in the end was that we did not find a clear pathways to have impact for these hens at the time being. Some learnings, being ambitious, of course, is highly endorsed and I think pretty cool, but can be tricky on the morale, can be tricky on the staff. So I think it was advice as well. You have to really be strong as a team and support each other. Collaboration with other organizations, I didn't name all of them, but it was super key and really important to get some of that stuff done quickly and leverage the expertise that is out there. We still think that new interventions and finding new ways to have impact is really important for the movement, especially when it comes to egg-laying hens. As the progress towards cage-free is made, we have to be asking ourselves, what's next? How do we keep pushing the industry to improve the conditions and to move away from these high-intensive systems? And finally, I think discussions like these and even topics such as incubation and support for movement growth is really important when it comes to strategic and organizational decision-making, because for us, it took us some time to make this decision. We were pivoting, we were downscaling, we were doing different approaches. Nothing turned out to be as successful as we wanted, so we shut down. But it's a tricky decision, and I think we should be talking about it, how to make them better, how to support each other along the way. Finally, I just wanted to acknowledge that there was a lot of people involved, namely, of course, my co-founders, team members, staff, volunteers, but also I'd like to highlight the Charity Entrepreneurship Program because talking about charity entrepreneurship, we're everywhere. Anyway, the program is still open for 2 days, I think, so you can still apply to their incubation program. The first stage, I think it just takes half an hour, and it's really good for you to kind of sense whether entrepreneurship could be a thing for you. It's not recruitment, it's not a high commitment, and you can really learn a thing or two about myself. At least that was the case for me. So consider. We have Kickstarter for Good too as well. Consider that if you're up for something like that, trying something new, pushing the boundaries. We got some funding as well. Super thankful for that, of course. the funding pool is constricted, and we try to be mindful of that and be careful given the counterfactuals. And of course, all of you who try your best for the animals, who come to events like this to learn and share. I thank you all.
Thank you to all participants, to all speakers. Now I'd like to welcome everyone to the table. We'll be having some Q&A. So if everyone's comfortable, I think I'll start the session with Sofia. What is your wish for HIVE going forward?
Oh, sorry, could you repeat it?
What is your wish for HIVE going forward? What do you hope will happen?
My ambition for HIVE is for all the people in the world who want to help farmed animals to know that there is a space where they can get help and support, and no matter whether they want to start a charity like these brave people, whether you just want to volunteer a couple of hours, whether you want to donate. I want all the people in the world who just in any way want to help farmed animals to know that we have a newsletter, that we have a Slack space, because there are so many ways to engage with the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next up, Joana Raquel. What arguments or evidence have you found most persuasive when convincing industry stakeholders to support animal welfare?
Hi, I'm sorry. I think we need public awareness in Portugal, and if we have the support for the work that we are doing, that's a step forward. We also been using the strategy that it's called. We've been focusing on male chick culling, because we found that that's a way that people get a lot of empathy with the animals, and people don't know about what happens in the industry. So when we were on those investigations and talking to producers and everything, what we found was that we still have a lot of cages in Portugal as well, but we found that the producers don't want them as well. And they know that it is changing and they are transitioning to alternative systems. And they say that when the law is final, when we finally have the law to finish with cages, they will stop the production, because they are smaller producers, and they don't want to continue doing that and do the old transition, and the family don't want to continue as well. The daughters and the sons don't want to continue the family business. So if we try to targeting all those issues, like the political issue, the corporate issue, and also the public awareness, if we have people working on everything, I think we can get there as fast as we can for animals.
Thank you. And next up, one for both Sweda and Gülbike. What are some of the most compelling economic arguments you have developed to persuade policymakers and industry leaders to invest in animal welfare initiatives?
So until now, we have not
like we are not doing lobbying. We are not engaging with the policymakers one-to-one. So our work is indirect. We are on the backstage. We're working with the advocates and organizations. So like I have done some lobbying with Middle East Vegan Society for different projects, but it's not with Animetrics. So Animetrics is focused with organizations to make them more stronger in the backstage.
Okay, so thank you for your answer. Perhaps not the smartest of my questions.
No, it's okay.
So next up, what kind of, to Sebastian, what kind of intervention do you wish you could fund but hasn't been able to submit yet? Yeah, so basically, if you have something you would like to be funded and you haven't submitted yet, what would that be?
Oh, there are quite a number. I mean, we have, we still have some of the incubees from last year that are still seeking funding. So I think some of those we would give funding to, but also, some of the newer ones, we have 25 participants, or probably at the end of the program, we expect to at least, still have like 15 to 18. But yeah, I'll try not to communicate any preferences, because we try to be neutral and then, let the funders decide. So our job is actually to really get them as close, to be funding ready, so that funders are really excited to fund the initiatives coming out of that. But I mean, also one learning actually was from the first one, that the first pilot program that we had, to engage earlier with funders so that they already know what's coming, so that they're more eager to really write the first checks, because we learned from the first cohort that took longer than we would have hoped. I mean, we have heard from Sofia that it always takes a bit longer than one would hope, but we definitely try to reduce that waiting time for everybody.
Thank you. So I have one more for Joana and Gülbike. What strategies does Animetrics employ to ensure that capacity building services are tailored to the unique challenges and resources of organizations in both developed and developing regions?
Yeah, so what we do with our capacity building projects, we initially saw a lot of demand, and we were, to be honest, a bit like struggling in the sense that we wanted to say yes to everybody, and then we have limited time. So what we did is we thought that we should have a structured approach. So we started doing open calls, and we started receiving applications from organizations, and we were very transparent about our prioritization and everything. So we right now taking 4 capacity building projects for a 4-month period of time. We have a specific maximum allocated hours, and then we try to hear about what is needed the most from the organizations. Again, we prioritize organizations operating in the Global South, but that's not exclusive. And yeah, we try to find the perfect match, because we also want to be effective. Sometimes they're amazing projects, but it's not the right match. Then we don't want to waste anybody's time as well. So yeah, it's a lot of ongoing conversations, but we also have applications asking a lot of questions with regards to the specific project, so that we know how to be most effective and helpful.
Maybe I can add something.
Yeah, please.
Apart from this, we also saw a lot of demand for impact evaluation. So in terms of a causal sense of impact evaluation, was my the impact of my initiative considering the counterfactual. So instead of training everyone one by one, we decided to divide this capacity building as a part of our training services. That's why we will soon we will initiate a training session, and we want to invite all the advocates who are interested in that and learning part of identifying what's the correlation, what's the causation, and how to identify why it's important, etc. So we're also dividing our time to be more effective in terms of that.
Thank you. Okay, so and then I have one for Lukas Jasiunas. In retrospect, were there alternatives, approaches of strategies that Healthier Hens could have taken to achieve their goals within the financial limitations?
Yes, there were always alternatives, ones that we had to weigh and make a decision. I think the main kind of key decision-making point for us was the country selection, so where to pilot. And we saw that kind of additional benefit of piloting in the global south country, one that's hard to measure, right? We didn't know like how can it be translated into impact or how can it scale, but we just saw that huge gap, knowledge gap, resource gap, data gap was one that should be filled. But yeah, I mean, even now I think AIM, so used to be CE, are proposing a new charity to deal with keel bone fractures, but focused on the global north. So where, you know, there are data, there are the infrastructures established, and there are those better market dynamics. So perhaps a different strategy, of course, will work in the global north, where this issue is a bit more visual. Obviously, we're not talking about campaigns like, you know, visual campaigns targeted at the public, because it's not a really visual issue, right? It's not like a cage, it's not like a broken leg. So it's hard to convey to an emotional audience, but I'm sure there are different approaches that could be targeted in those different geographies. So I'm pretty excited.
Thank you. So I have to say thank you to everyone, both attendees in person here and online, and of course to all our speakers. And I would like to ask everyone to rate the session, and also at the end of the conference, if you could please also fill out the survey. That would be really useful. And yeah, I think that's it basically. Thank you very much.